What's up, Clay? Welcome back to another episode of the Jesus Cartel. How are things going for you?
Man, it is all good. Last week I talked about how good the weather was at the end of last week, even though we knew that this week may be difficult. And this week's weather has been difficult.
Yeah, it's been something.
It's schools have been closed. Louisiana Tech, where my daughter Elena goes, is closed. Cooper School's closed. Cool thing is that my wife, Miss Becky, doesn't ever take all of her PTO time or whatever.
Sure.
And her boss really wanted her to use last year's PTO that she hasn't used yet. And so because she knew that Cooper would be out of school Monday and Tuesday already, she made it to where she would be at home. So while he's out of school on snow days or, however you want to say it, she was at home too. So that helped out. So they got to spend a lot of time together. Now, I will say this, and I just now thought about this. But yesterday I went to work like a good boy, and then I come home and got ready to go hunting.
Uh-huh.
Well, while I was getting ready to go hunting, they decided to play Monopoly. Monopoly is a big game that I grew up playing and stuff, and they've played it, and stuff, but it's not a game that we just play all the time, mainly because I'm too old to sit there all the time, and do that. But anyhow, they decided to play Monopoly while I was gone. Well, when I get back from, I call it deer hunting, when I got back from sitting in a deer stand and not seeing deer, they told me about this Monopoly game that they played where Cooper won the Monopoly game. And it only lasted like 30 or 45 minutes or something like that.
I already don't like this.
So anyhow, they were telling me about it, and they had a good time. So Miss Becky cooked supper. We ate supper. I was getting ready to go to the hot tub and maybe, get ready for the night. And they decided that I really need to play Monopoly with them and that we need to play this game. Now, granted, they've only played a few times, and their last time they saw, this game went really quick, and they had a lot of fun and enjoyed each other. So I did not, because they've been together all day, and I know they want to hang out with me. And because of that, I decided to play Monopoly with them last night. And we're in a position to where I'm trying to make deals with Cooper and stuff, and he's just he's not digging the deals.
Yeah.
And they're deals that are good for both of us, and he's not digging the deals. And then I try to make deals with Becky, and they're deals that's good for both of us, and she's not really wanting to make the deals. And every time I'm hitting property. Now, it's not all property that matches, but I'm just storing up property over here. And
talking about a guy who owns a bunch of property.
Owns a bunch of property, a little bit of something about that.
Yeah.
And so here we are. And so I'm trying to help them, and then we get to a stage of the game where they're feeling pretty comfortable about where they are. I have no idea why, because I am crushing it right now. But they don't see it. And I told Cooper, I said, man, you might as well get ready to go take your bath because this game's going to be over with in 20 minutes. And he goes, ain't no way. 10 minutes later, he's out of the game.
Yes.
Where he's sitting comfortable in his mind because he's got a weak mind when it comes to this, And so he's sitting comfortable, and I got him right where I want him. I even called my shot, right?
That's awesome.
The only issue is that I set him up, but Becky actually finally made the right deal with me, acquired one property from me, made a deal, and she actually put him out.
Got him.
So where I set him up, she put him out. Now, she didn't even like the fact that she put him out, but I let her know that because she put him out, she got all of his property.
Yeah.
Well, now with her property and his property combined, then now she is, I won't say a legitimate threat, but she is someone that can make this game go longer now.
Yeah.
And so her and I battled it out for a good bit longer. Now, if I would have put Cooper out, I could have put her out quick. I did all the damage to Cooper. She just did the final thing and got his property. But because she did the final put out, then I had to battle her a little longer. And there was, every once in a while, there was a glimmer that she thought that she may be able to overcome, but she really knew deep down that I was crushing it.
Yeah.
And so it was just a good time for them to realize that I was still superior.
Yes.
And that they can do stuff while I'm gone and feel good about themselves.
Cowards.
But if they want to include Daddy in on it, then they're really going to see who they are.
I love it. I tell you, I've not played much Monopoly over the years, but I tell you a game that I love is Risk.
Yeah?
I play Risk at a very, very high level. And a lot over the years, encountering different people, they're like, "Oh man, I'm really good at Risk." All those people played with me. It's not a competitive game between those people and I. I don't know what it is. Something about world domination comes naturally to me. But my friends and people that I've played with a lot over the years, there's something that they'll all be able to tell you and verify that is true about me playing any game. And it's kind of just true about me in life. I'll never lie. Whatever I say I'm going to do, I'm going to do. If I make you an offer or I make you a deal, it's gold. I won't betray you. I'm not going to turn my back on it. But my threat is equally as credible. And so, normally with Risk, this is how it goes. When I play with strangers, I usually will just win those games pretty easy because nobody knows who I am. Nobody knows that I'm probably going to win before the game started. So it's all new to everybody. But when I'm playing with people who know me, everybody knows off jump. Everybody, wherever Andrew is, get him off the board. Get him off the board as fast as you can. And so normally when it comes to Risk, it's all about the negotiation. It's like, hey, look, Steve, you're not going to win this game. It's clear to you you're not going to win this game. You can already see by where you are. The only glimmer of hope you've got is if you let me do dang, dang, dang. I'll give him my terms. And it's like, now, here's the other option. The other option is, if you don't let me do this and they continue to gang up on me, I'm not going to win this game either. I don't like that. So you can either help me win this game or you can be out in 3 turns. Yeah. And that's you just kind of got to bully your way through the negotiations and stuff. And when you're and I guess this is my point. The reason I'm bringing this up about Risk is, one, just to let anyone who's listening know, don't even bother. And second, integrity carries over into everything. It carries over into everything, even the things that you think don't matter or insignificant. I'm successful at Risk even because of the integrity I carry. And I find that to be a humorous thing, but they'll tell you, ask anybody who ever plays board games with me, will Andrew lie? And they'll all tell you no. If I say it, it'll happen.
Well, I've never played Risk before. I've seen it, and stuff, but I've never played it before. It might be something I want to check into one day. But, talking about that integrity, Cooper asked me, early on last night, what is it going to take to get this property? And I told him what it would take to get that property, and he decided he didn't want to do that. And it was probably 6 to 8 other times.
Yep.
He asked again, a couple rounds later, a couple passes later, some things changed. But my value of that property never changed. I knew what the value was to me even before I owned 2 of them. It didn't change when, so when I had 1, I was always planning on getting a 3rd if I got his 2nd, And so it never changed. I was willing to overpay.
Yeah.
For me having 1 and him having 1, in the minds of normal Monopoly people, I was offering him more. I was willing to overpay because in my mind, I was willing to pay the price just like I had to. Yeah. Because in my mind, I was going to get the 3rd one.
Yeah.
And so my price never changed.
I love it.
So
I love it.
I'm hoping he learned some lessons at 16
Sure.
Of those things.
I also love that board games bring out the worst in people. People will really come to light during something like that. It's funny. And Cooper, just between you and I, nobody else listened to this. It's just me and Coop. You're the only one in your family so far that's not proven himself a winner to me. Annalise has, Elena has, Miss Becky has, and Clay has. I need to see you dominate something, son. And so figure out what that is and show up and show out. I'm not going to feel good about your future until you best some people in something, establish some true dominance.
There
and
you
so
go.
there's a challenge for Cooper.
Amen.
He's just too young. I didn't get to, when I was hanging out with your older ones, he was too much of a baby.
Yep.
And so he's
I
coming.
I told him the same exact story.
He's coming into his age. I need him to start whooping some people at something.
It doesn't matter what, and this is for everybody, it doesn't matter what you decide to put your eggs into.
Yep.
But you need to put your eggs somewhere.
Yep.
You need to work at something. You need to get good at something. You need to strategize. You need to work. You need to have something to where you're all in on. Mm-hmm. And if you're all in on that, then you will be superior in those things. But everybody's got to find out what that is. Mm-hmm. You know. And
Test the waters.
Yep.
Figure it out. So, man, that was actually kind of insightful as to who we are. But I do have another question for you, just to get to know you a little bit better. I think this question was posed by one of your children, as a matter of fact, and I loved it. And the question is, what's the best compliment that you have ever received? Best compliment you've ever received. Does something jump out to you right away?
Yeah, so number one, I don't like compliments, in the sense that I feel like they're supposed to happen, and I feel like they're warranted, and I feel like that it's good. But I just don't like receiving them.
Sure.
Because they make me uncomfortable. Somebody goes, "Hey, man, I appreciate you for this." Man, no problem. Hey, I enjoy appreciation. If somebody goes, "Man, you're really good at this," and I like, man, I'm cool with that. Hey, you're right. I am really good at that. I'm glad you recognize. I'm glad it helped you out. Not arrogance, but it's just that. But when they start really going on with a compliment, I get uncomfortable.
Yeah. I'm
good with the first line. Second line, I'm trying to get out of it. Third line, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And it's just because, I enjoy helping people, but I don't enjoy the compliments and all that. More, I enjoy the appreciation, but not the compliments. But the compliments that I do enjoy the most, if they are deeper, have to do with my family.
Yeah.
When you and I are on the show and you have analyzed my family, looked at all the moving parts, and then you acknowledge that we've done things well and that you appreciate it because it helps. Those kind of compliments mean the most to me because they're not the, "Oh, you got the best family in the world" compliments, because that is kind of like, you pushed the right button, you won the lottery, and you got a great family. But when I have a conversation with somebody and they've really looked at our family and they really acknowledge that we've done well and with all parts of it, that means the most to me.
Yeah.
Because we're following God. And we're doing that thing, but our focus is to have God at the center of everything that we do, including our family.
Yeah.
And that is something that I'm real proud of.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, growing up, I was kind of a ruthless competitor. And that's kind of in all aspects of life. I was big into sports, and I loved them. And I played baseball for our school, but I played everything else, just in general. Like it was just, we kind of still grew up in an era where people played sports together. That's what we did for fun. Wasn't playing video games, stuff like that. Some of that happened, but that wasn't what we did.
Right.
We played ball, and so I was always ruthless. And I was going to do whatever it took to win. I didn't cheat, but I'm saying, like, I'm giving 150,000% to make sure that I walk away from everything the victor. People are like, "Well, you can't win everything," and you'd be surprised. You can win most things,
right.
And I did everything in my power to make sure that I did. And so, when you're like that, you develop a bit of a reputation, and not in a good way. Because not everything's so serious. That's a great thing when you're in actual competitive events. It's not a great thing when people are just trying to have a good time, and here you are, try harding it and ruining everybody's day because you're just, ruthless. And man, that's kind of how I was. And I couldn't, there wasn't a version of me that could take a step back and see any greater good than my own personal victory. You know what I mean? And so this was all really before I had a real relationship with Christ. I grew up in church, but I tell people my relationship with Christ didn't start until my 20s, legitimately, because it didn't. And I guess it was kind of initiated at 19, but didn't really take hold until my 20s. And so after I'd kind of come to know Christ and started to see value in other things and see value in people, and now I'm trying to learn how to build people up and stuff like that. I remember I went to cross camp one year, and I wasn't on staff. I was just like a volunteer, just going out to help. And I remember playing basketball with some kids at cross camp, and I'm deceptively good at basketball. And I remember a lady who knows me and has known me for some years, so she saw the ruthless version of me. It was actually Joe Ashley, who preached to D now. It was his wife, Jamie. Jamie is worth her weight in gold. She's fantastic. She came up to me after we finished playing, because first I picked the most terrible kids in the gym to be on my team. That's the first thing I did. Second, I worked really hard to try to make the game competitive, but not by me scoring, but by drawing all the attention to me and then passing the ball to them and letting them shoot wide open shots, and playing defense really hard. But it's all for the sake of letting these kids who don't normally get to win have an opportunity to play a competitive game and have fun and stuff like that. And we ended up losing the game, but it was close. And she come up to me afterwards and she said, "Andrew, that was very impressive." And I was just very caught off guard. You know what I mean? Because she's seen me play ball a million times, and I know I didn't do anything. I don't even think I scored. Yeah. And she goes, "That was very impressive." And I was just like, "What?" And she goes, "I know you could have won that game, and you chose not to. And you chose to let those kids have that moment and enjoy this game. And that's more impressive than anything you've ever done on a sports field." And dude, that hit me hard, because that to me was evidence that I had truly started to change. Because up to that point, change was still something I was hoping for. I didn't necessarily believe for myself yet. I hadn't. People ask me all the time, it's like, "Did you go through Fresh Start?" I'm like, "No, I didn't. I wish I would have." Because what y'all learn in 7 months took me 4 or 5 years to gather identity and all of these pieces of information that get taught. It took me years to piece together. And so I didn't have a firm grasp on my identity or who I was or what God thought of me, or that I was loved, or any of these things. And so this was the first moment that I ever felt like I'm changing. I'm changing. This is different, and so that's the best compliment I've ever received.
That's cool.
So much
Really
so
cool.
that it's still in my head, and it's probably been 12, 13 years ago, that I heard that. So big deal to me. And so last week we had a podcast on purpose-seeking culture. Gotten some really good feedback on that, by the way. I think that it really expanded beyond what we had originally intended, and impacted a lot of people that we didn't really expect it to impact. And so we're going to kind of just continue diving forward into leadership and communication. And I got a question for you regarding those things. My first question is this: when it comes to leadership, trust is a massive component, right? When you're leading a team, the people under you, the people above you, everybody needs to trust you. But the question that I get a lot is, how do you build trust? How do you build relationships? And so if you're a new leader, maybe you acquired a position, but it wasn't because you've been part of the company for a long time or anything like that, or part of the business or whatever, the team. You're new to the team. So you got no reputation, you got no nothing. How do you initiate actually building trust and building relationships?
Yeah. So, and I'm sure that, with more time we could come up with a list and help people and all that. But my initial thoughts right there is to, I just heard a coach say this, or somebody quote a coach the other day. They said that before people want to know all that you know, they first got to know that you care. Mm-hmm. So I think that one way to build trust and to build relationships is letting people know that you genuinely care.
Yeah.
You care about the project, you care about the goals, you care about what you're doing, and you care about how it ends up, and you also care about them and them being a part of it. Because if they know that you care and you're the leader, and they know that you value this going well, then they feel like they should value it going well.
Yep.
And then if they know that you value them beyond just this project, you value them specifically, then they're going to feel that value too.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important. We talked last week about my relationship with my buddy Jeff and how him and I were on opposite ends of the spectrum, but I knew that God wanted me to develop a relationship with him. So I went way out of my way to do it. And he went way out of his way to do it. But I think I initially, heard it from God first. And so by me initiating those things, then he decided, hey, this is right, and he needed to do it too. So I think that there's a lot of ways to develop relationships. I think one of the ways to develop relationships is to do what you do a lot, and that is get on that person's playing field.
Yeah.
Get with what that person is doing. Talk to them about what they want to talk about. Love them the way they want to be loved, so to speak, instead of just trying to bring them into your world. I've seen a lot of leaders and stuff try to bring me into their world. And I don't understand their world, so it's a little difficult.
Yeah.
So whereas if they try to come into mine and ask about my family, ask about what we do, learn, about Fresh Start or whatever it is, then I'm a lot more comfortable. And also I feel like they care.
Yep.
Whereas if all they're doing is trying to get me to know where they're at and everything, then it's more difficult.
Yep.
So I think that a leader, a few ways to build trust is letting them know that you care about the project, you care about the outcome, you care about what they're doing, and you also care about them. And then I think one of the main ways to build relationship is for you as the leader to move into their space, into their spectrum, and learn from them. Because if they feel like they're teaching you something, even if it's them teaching you about themselves, which is their number one subject they know the best, then at least they feel like then not only that you value them enough to even ask or be a part of it, but they also feel like that they've added something to the relationship by telling you about themselves.
Yeah.
So I hope some of that come out right. It's probably the first time I've ever said all that before, but the heart behind it is to reach them on their level.
Yeah. Yeah, we are back to a version of the show where Clay doesn't know what we're talking about ahead of time again. He had a couple weeks where he kind of had an idea. He doesn't this week again. Right. And so, no, that's super good. I mean, that's why I learned how to play Risk, because I knew some people that really like board games, and I wasn't into it. So I found one that I could tolerate and spend a lot of time playing. And so I probably played board games for the next 8-9 months, several times a week, even though I don't like to sit still. And, this podcast is hard for me to do.
Right.
Because everything in me wants to get up and start pacing. I can't hardly do it. And so, there's pretty much everything I learned how to do in life, you can point back to a relationship I was trying to make stronger. Yeah. And I was just wheeling through things in my mind when you said that, even like I started playing basketball because there was a kid in my second grade class that was good at basketball, and I thought he was cool. And I wanted to hang out with him, so I started playing basketball at my house to get better, so that I could play basketball at recess with this kid. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it really does go that far back.
Right.
And it's an interesting way to look at it, but it's absolutely true. You know, when you're building trust and relationships, I think everything you said is valid, but I just want to add how important consistency is to those things. So when you're trying to build trust, you're trying to build relationships. If you're inconsistent and people don't know what to expect from you, it's going to be very hard for them to trust you. Even if you haven't done anything wrong or untrustworthy, if you're not consistent, they still don't know whether or not they can count on you, and that's a really big deal in trust, and it's a really big deal in relationships. And I think about I've ran a few businesses, and I've worked at a lot more than I've ran, and anytime there's a new employee that has a really like bubbly personality, it's always, those are my favorite like responses to see from the other employees, because typically this really nice bubbly person gets a really negative response from the rest of the team. They're like, oh, this is so fake. You know what I mean? It's so fake. I cannot stand that. Always just in there, hey, good morning, how are you? Like, and that's like, people are like, oh my gosh, this girl, this guy, so fake. And it's like, you've known them for 13 minutes at this point. You know what I mean? Like, this might be exactly who they are. Give them a chance, you know? And through time, you realize whether or not the person is indeed fake or that's who they are, you know? But it's found out how? Through consistency. The ones that are consistent over time, they end up winning over the whole staff. Everybody loves them. Look, that's the nicest person in the entire world. I can't believe I ever didn't like that person. And then the other ones that were that way for a couple weeks, and then they're like all broody in their office, angry, like those people, see, I told you, you know? And so consistency goes a long way in building trust in relationships, whether you're in leadership or a subordinate at the job that you're working. And so if you are in leadership, another thing that's super important that I want to kind of talk about the back and forth, or not necessarily the back and forth, but the differences in. You know, when you're a leader, you have to lead the people who are under you, but you also have to lead your peers and the people above you. Right, which is a weird concept for a lot of people. How do I lead the people above me? There is a way, but there's also differences in how you handle those three groups between your subordinates, your peers, and then your superiors. And so what advice do you have for someone who's in leadership and is trying to figure out like how to navigate the different roles there?
Yeah, so I think it starts with the basis of like we're talking about, letting people know that you care, letting people know that you care about the project, about them, being consistent. You know, that was a good thing to add to there. And so once you kind of got that established, you know, then you want to try to take the people that, you know, you don't want to say below you, but the people that you're in charge of, you want to try to take them and elevate them. You know, and so we want to take them and make them feel that they're worthy. Also make them feel like that there's more that they can obtain, you know. And I don't want them to feel bad about where they are, but we do want to help them with some goals and help them move them up. And then when they see that you're trying to help them, move up and not hold them down, then they're going to give you more and more, because this guy's for me. He's not against me. I've had bosses in the past that are pushing me down. That's not what this guy is doing. This guy's, man, I've seen him. He's doing these things, and he is encouraging me to do these things, not to make him better, but to make me better. So they see those things, and then they want to try even harder, you know. And then with your peers and stuff, you know, just them seeing that, hey, you know, this guy isn't trying to be, you know, better than me, but at the same time, he's not willing to stay where he's at either. You know, and so we're motivating our peers and those around us, you know, because they see that hey, we're pushing it a little bit, and we're doing things a little bit different, and you know, but at the same time, I'm not doing it to beat you or be in competition with you. I'm doing it because it's what God's called me to do.
Yeah.
But what I'd really like is for you to come along with me, and let's do even more of this together. You know,
Absolutely.
I started in insurance sales, and you know, and I was just real good at it from the word go. And my two partners, I had two different brothers that were two different partners at one time, and they were over twice my age. At the time, I was in my early 20s, and they were in their mid-40s, and now it seems like they were in their 60s, but really they were in their 40s and everything, and I learned a lot from them. But then we went to a different company, and we tried our same stuff with that company, and it wasn't working.
Uh-oh.
And for just a few days there, it wasn't working, but we were so used to our approach working, and it didn't work. So the first guy, my partner, you know, went home and said, I can't be on the road if I'm not making money.
Yeah.
And this is not working, you know, right now. And what we've been doing for a couple of years, now it's just not working. Well, instead of just going home with my head tucked between my legs, I went and found the guy that it was working for.
Yeah.
With that company. And I talked to him and asked him, hey, can I come watch you? You know, you don't have to split the business with me. You don't owe me nothing. I'm just there. You know, I'll help you if you want me to help you. If not, I'll sit over in the corner. But you don't have to split the business with me, anything like that. I'm just going to come for free. I'm going to buy my own hotel room. I'll do all my stuff. And he said, how long do you want to stay? And I said, till I get it. And he said, okay. And I was planning on spending the whole week with him at least.
Yeah.
You know, not making any money.
Yeah.
And next thing you knew, I knew within 20 minutes what he was doing that I wasn't doing.
Okay.
Okay. So instead of me just going and doing it, I called my buddy back up that went home, that took his ball and went home. Instead of being upset with him and it costing me money and stuff, I called him and said, hey, buddy, I figured it out. You know, hey, I figured it out. And next thing you know, he comes back and we go on a 5 or 6 year run to where we're able to bring people with us and do better and that kind of stuff. Well, those peers around me saw that.
Yeah.
They saw that motivation. So not only was this guy over here that I went and watched, he was my peer and he was a big motivating factor for me. But then, you know, so I took by watching what he was doing really motivated me. But then I was able to make everybody around me better because of that. So that, you know, his goal was to make money. You know, the guy I went and watched for 20 minutes.
Sure.
His goal was to make money. My goal was different. My goal was to make everybody around me better.
Yeah.
So I was able to go watch what he did, and in fact, you know, in turn, help a lot of other people around me. And so I think that with the people that, you know, we're leading is to try to build them up. The people that we're peers with, I think it's setting a bar that, you know, to help raise the bar, to help them raise the bar and get better in life and different things like that. And then for the people that are above us, man, I want to serve them in any way I can to help them reach the goals that they have in life too.
Yeah.
You know, as long as that doesn't contradict what God is showing me, then I want to serve them in a way where I can help them maybe in ways that nobody ever even knows.
Yeah.
You know, because, hey, it may not benefit me, but it's benefiting them. You know, and if they got the right motivations and they got the right, you know, heart about them, then I want to help them any way I can. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, with the new leaders out there, just realize it's not all about your project, your four and no more. It's not all about you. It's not all about what you've been assigned to. But even within that assignment, you can affect everybody around you in a positive way, whether it's the people working for you, whether it's your peers, or whether it's the people in authority above you. Or not even an authority above you, maybe just in a position above you. Maybe they have no authority over you whatsoever. I think I've been effective helping lots of people that are just in higher positions than me that really aren't even in authority over me. Have nothing to do with me. I'm just able to give them a little insight here and there to help them with that. We have friends that have big businesses, bigger than the businesses I run and stuff. But I'm able to sow into their lives behind the scenes. In fact, I'm thinking of 3 of them right now that are just some of our best friends that all run big businesses, bigger than mine. They're at a higher level than I am, just because that's what God's called them to do. And they're in no authority over me. But yet, every opportunity I'm given, I'm trying to find ways to help them make their businesses better.
Yeah.
Just why? Because it's what God wants us to do. My wife used to pick on me about it because I'd call Jeff's cows our cows. I said,
I
man,
like it.
Hey man, I gotta go check on our cows out there. I heard one of them, and she's like, well, that ain't your cows. Or Jeff was really involved in chicken litter business to where he'd take chicken manure and he would buy it and then put it on people's farming land and stuff and spread it out for them. And Jeff always said, man, that chicken litter, because it has a really strong odor, he'd say, man, that chicken litter smelled like money, because he was making money from it. And so I'd say, man, Becky said, oh, that stuff smells out by the house. I said, man, it smells like money. And she's like, that ain't your money. That's Jeff's money.
Yep.
Still smells like money. And because of me having that mindset, I've been able to help Jeff in some ways.
Yep.
In his business, even though he knows his business way better than I do, been able to sow some things over the years. Why? Because we're not at it from my 4 no more, my little box. And so I think that's a big deal in leadership, is realizing it's not all about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was a long ramble.
No, I like it though. If I was going to try to word it as simply as I could, I would say it kind of follows this pattern. Your subordinates, or the people underneath you, want to feel good. Your peers want to not look bad, and your leader wants to look good. Those are kind of the 3 categories that it comes to. Everybody wants to go to work and enjoy going to work. That's the subordinate mindset, kind of across the board. If you're going to work and they dread waking up every morning, you're in a bad spot. And so you got to get your subordinates to where they enjoy coming to work. That's a big deal. Figure out what's going on in their life, figure out what's going on in their family, and figure out what can you do as a leader to make it a joy for them to show up every day and be a part of the team. That is a massive way to lead the people underneath you. It's going to carry a tremendous amount of weight. Your peers, the people who are at the same level as you, they want you to not make them look bad. They don't need you to make them look good. They're doing their own stuff. But they want to make sure that you're not making them look bad. Okay? So you develop a relationship with your peers to where everything that you're doing isn't undercutting them. It's not, going behind the back door to try to get up above them. They don't want you stepping on their face as you're climbing the corporate ladder, essentially. And so you kind of have to look at your relationship with your peers through that lens and create the kind of relationship where they don't feel that way about you. That doesn't mean you don't try to climb the corporate ladder, but you do it in a way that has some integrity about you. Be careful not to there's always shortcuts available. They all have a cost. They've all got a price. Be very, very careful, because once you aggravate your peers are really the most dangerous person you work with. Everybody thinks that the boss is the scary one. Your peers, that's the problem, because your boss, he's not going to have that much dealings with you more than likely unless you've upset your peers, and your peers are now going to your boss, because that's who's going to take the problem upstairs. And so, just be very careful how you handle those relationships. Handle them with class, handle them with respect, handle them with integrity. And, a lot of people are probably thinking, well, not everybody that I deal with has a lot of integrity. It doesn't matter. Your responsibility is to handle people the correct way. If they don't have integrity, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't, because whatever you do follows you. And so if this person doesn't have integrity, so you act in a way that has no integrity, that's going to stick with you. And, kind of leading to that next point with your boss, your superior, he wants you to make him look good. And so what you do as you're accomplishing tasks and stuff like that is you credit your boss with part of that. You don't have to credit him with all of it. You credit him with part of it. It makes him look good. He feels good about you. Now the dynamic of your relationship is changed. And now if there is a promotion comes available, you're going to be the one who's more than likely going to get it. And a lot of people are like, oh man, that's brown nose and that's this, that's that. It's got nothing to do with that. It's got everything to do with you wouldn't have that job if your superior didn't allow you to have that job. That's the absolute reality. If he decided he didn't want you there, you wouldn't be there. It's that simple. And so even if he didn't lift a finger to help you, he has allowed you the space to do whatever it is you did. And so at the very least, credit him with that. And no work whatsoever. But if I could tell his superior, hey, look, man, Jim just really gave me the space to work on this and trusted me with it, and that makes Jim look great. And you don't have to say that Jim came up with the idea or Jim helped or do none of that. Just he gave you the freedom and space to work it out, and that makes Jim looks good. And if Jim looks good, Jim's gonna make you look good, and that's kind of the way that happens. And a lot of times people get jammed up in this weird spot where they got a bad boss, and they try to oust him. They try to get him out of there. Here's the deal. That's going to follow you. You're creating an office political situation that's going to stick with you. And if you replace Jim, somebody's coming for you. I'll just go ahead and tell you, because they watched you oust Jim and they don't trust you. They saw what happened. You know what I mean? There's no integrity in the way that you went about it. They are coming for you, and it's going to happen before you know it. And so if you ever do have a situation with a bad leader, here would be my advice to you, and you're not going to like it, but this is the best advice I could give you. If you got a bad leader and you need him out of there, don't try to promote yourself into that position. Find the peer that would do the best job at that situation. Promote them into that situation. That way there's some honesty and integrity about the way that you went about it. It wasn't for your own personal gain. It was genuinely for the good of the whole. That will be recognized, and that integrity will also follow you. But if you try to usurp someone above you, that will stick with you forever. You will always be the usurper, and that's not a great reputation to have. And so, and as far as the peer, if the peer, if that does end up happening, there's no loss of integrity for the peer because it was his idea. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not put in a weird spot. It's like, this is right. Andrew told Steve he should do that, and so it's got nothing to do with him. And I just think that that will pay you massive dividends. And another thing we see in leadership that a lot of people struggle with, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about, and I actually recently come across a very, very simple and clear way to kind of explain it, and I'm curious of your processes. Delegation is a really important part of leadership. Learning, that if you're not familiar with delegation, it's like you can't do every task as a leader. Some of them you got to give out. How do you choose what to delegate as a leader? How do I know, like, this is a task that I need to do, or this is something that this person needs to do? How do you decide? Because there's so much to do.
Yeah. So discernment is huge, but knowing people's strengths and weaknesses and stuff. So in my mind, almost everything we talk about goes back to relationships. Even with the peers, if the people know that you got their best interest at heart, then they'll listen when you tell them, hey, you need to step it up right here. It ain't got nothing to do with me, but it's got to do with you. Well, if you don't have a relationship with them, they're not going to receive that. But if you do have a relationship with them and they know that you got their best interest at heart, that they will. Well, it's kind of the same way with this. By knowing relationships and knowing your people, then you know their strengths and weaknesses. You know what they're capable of, even better than they may even know that they're capable, because they got a little anxiety or whatever about doing a little bit more. They can do more, right?
Yep.
And so with delegation, I've always said that we want to set people up to succeed, not to fail. So anytime I've delegated something, I've tried to make it be something that would make that person better. Okay, so if I can find something that's on my plate, but it would be in this person's wheelhouse, or it would make this person better, then that's what I'm looking for. Now, there's some things they're just tasks that just need to be done, and you think about it and you pray about it and you see who you think would do the best at it, and you give it to them. It may not make them feel any better, and it may or may not, but if you give the wrong task to the wrong person, it can be detrimental.
Yeah.
And if you try to keep on too much, then not only is it detrimental to you because you're not doing well at things, but it's also, everybody's like, well, why didn't you let me handle that? You didn't trust me to do that. You didn't trust me that I can handle this. I've been here with you. I've done what you've asked me to do. I could use more to do. You have more on you than you can handle. You're really not doing a good job with this because you got more on you than you can handle, but yet you're not willing to give it to me. What's wrong with me? So you're developing some mistrust there, and then all of a sudden you start having questions, about your leader and that kind of stuff because they didn't delegate it.
Yep.
So used to in the world, especially in the church world, you have this one pastor that's bivocational, that's working full-time job, and then he's trying to do everything for the church. And in his mind, that if he didn't do everything for the church, he wasn't earning his money, or he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. And so that's not where we want to be. We also don't want to be the person that just gets everybody else to volunteer to do stuff on the sake of serve teams and volunteers and stuff, and then we're not doing anything.
Yep.
But the proper amount of delegation in the right areas is very important for the leader, for the people that he gives it to, and for the sake of the project or ministry as a whole.
Yeah.
So delegation's huge, but delegating it to the right people is even bigger, and that I don't know how that can be done without relationships.
Yep.
I know somebody's going to say, well, just be led by the Spirit. And I understand. And I'm telling you, by the Spirit, be led to develop relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. 100% on that one. So here's what I want you to do. If you got a notebook and a pen, get it out. If you don't have one, I suggest you go get one because it's going to be something that's super helpful for you. What I want you to do is I want you to draw a big square. And then within that big square, I want you to draw a cross. So it's going to make you 4 squares within that big square. In the top left square, I want you to write this, N-U, and under that, write N-I. That box stands for not urgent, not important. Those things you can give to your most base level employee, your secretary who you have no relationship with, like your most base level employee, whoever that is. It's not always a secretary. Sometimes secretary is somebody you got a strong relationship with, you trust a lot. Sometimes they're not. It just depends on the place. But somebody that anyone at your office can do the NINU situation. So don't give those tasks to someone who has a tremendous amount of top end value to you within the company, because you're going to be misusing the things that they're gifted in if you give those tasks to them. Give those to the new guy who you don't know yet, the new girl that's just trying to establish herself. Like give those things to them. Those are tasks that can be used as kind of a proving ground to see how fast someone works or how much they can be trusted, how much care they give to their work. You can use that to move them into another box later. But for now, those tasks go to your most base level employee. That's the top left box. I want you to move one box over, and this box is NU, underneath it, I. Not urgent, but important. These are the tasks that you give to somebody who's very, very smart, someone who has a proven sense of good memory and dependability. They don't have to be done right away, but they need to matter to this person. That's the type of person you want to work on those tasks. At my most recent job, those were the type of tasks I gave to my college-educated people that have a history of being able to stay on task, get things done, long-term oriented. Those are the people I use for that. Bottom left box, this is going to be NI, underneath it, U. Not important, but urgent. This is the task you give to your go-getters. These are your high-energy, high-octane people that when you tell them to do a task, they're already on their way out the door before you get the sentence out of your mouth. Those people will get that stuff done. They don't even have to be that smart. You know what I mean? It's not important. It's just got to be done quick. There are a lot of those people in every workplace. People that just kind of have that go get it done personality, and that's like brings them great joy to get a task and then have it done in an hour. Like, and they're gonna come back. Well, I got it done for you, but you know what I mean. Like they got a high energy about them. Like that's who you delegate those things to. Your bottom right box, you guessed it, urgent, important. Do it yourself. If it's urgent and it's important, that's your job, right? You are the leader of whatever situation you're dealing with. That one's on you. And you can use that box system for anything.
Yeah.
You know, you can use it at your house. These chores are not urgent, not important. Give them to my 4-year-old. You know, these chores are urgent but not important. 6-year-old gets those. You know, it's different things like that. You can use them for all kinds of different stuff. But it's a great little system to use to learn how to delegate effectively. I think that my wife sent me a video of a guy teaching on that. And, man, as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is a fantastic
that's awesome
method of delegation.
And it's easy to understand. And,
yeah.
You know, and like you said, that top right box, you know, that, hey, it's very important, but it's not urgent. Those are the things that I usually keep for myself.
Yep.
You know, because we don't always have someone that can take those things. But those are the things that when I do feel like that I can give them to somebody else and then they're done correctly, then I feel the best about that person because of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that is something that I really like because, you know, I did this at Fresh Start one time. You know, had some employees, some different people that I just felt like, to be quite honest, wasn't meeting my expectations. You know, and you know, years ago. So I like to self-assess. So the first thing I did was, let's see if my expectations are too high. You know, maybe I'm wrong. So I wrote down everything that I expected. You know. And so when I wrote it down, it really looked really elementary. I mean, it looked basic. You know, I could have gave this to, you know, to your second child and expected her to do these things. You know, it just looked real elementary. And so I gave it to my staff, and I said, "Hey, these are my expectations. Do y'all think that there's anything here that's too lofty, anything that shouldn't be on here?" And they all agreed, no, this is really elementary. And I said, okay. I said, well, just want y'all to know, this is what I expect. Now, I'm not going to give this to you every day. I'm not going to remind it to you every week, but I just want you to know that this is what I expect. So when I come to you and talk to you about something one day, whether I do or not, I just want you to know, if you're not doing one of these things, I still expect you to do it. And just because you're not doing it doesn't mean I still don't expect it. I do expect it. And so, and every time I've ever showed that list to anybody, they're all like, man, this is really, really easy. However, very few people have consistently met those expectations. You know, they will at first, but because I'm not preaching it to them and all that and everything, then sometimes many of them have slacked on those deals. Now, I don't think I've ever slacked on them.
Sure.
But I feel like most of my employees have from time to time. And I know some of them are going to listen to this. And, you know, man, I didn't expect to say this, but they know I love them. And they know I care about them. And so then we have to have sometimes what we have a come to Jesus staff meeting where I remind people of the expectations. But the expectations never changed. You know, well, I think about that when you talk about the very important but not urgent box. Not everybody can handle the the very important but not urgent box because we're not doing it every day, but it still is expected to get done just as much, maybe even more because it's so important.
Correct.
You know, so we have to be real careful who we give that list to.
Yeah, and if you are leading teams, here's what I would suggest. I would suggest you draw that box exactly as I described, and then make 2 more copies of it where you don't write anything in it. And for one of the boxes, I would do this on a dry erase board. I would write your task, and I'd put them in the box they belong in so that you can look at them. And the next box, I would write your teams. and I would put your team member in the box they belong in, so that you can get a clear look at, this is the task I have to do, and this is going to be one of the team members to do it. So the boxes will all correlate with one another. You don't have to write that where they can see it or know, they don't need to know exactly where they fall in that category. If you want to tell them, you can, but it's not beneficial or non-beneficial for them to know or not know. And for anybody who's listening and thinking to themselves like, oh, man, I don't lead a team, so this really isn't even applicable to me. Organize your to-do list through this box so that you know what order these things need to be done. You know what I mean? You literally go on the bottom right, then you go one to the left, you go diagonal, then you go to the top. You know what I mean? And you'd be able to get your things done in a much more efficient. You'd be surprised how much more efficient you could be if you'd organize your thoughts this way. But a lot of people don't have any sort of method to the madness of their life. And so that'd be the way, if you don't lead a team, that you could still utilize this massively help your day-to-day walk in life.
Another way you can use it in life without leading a team is look at what box your boss has got you in.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And if you're not comfortable with that box, then change.
Yep.
Don't change jobs.
Sure.
Change you.
Sure. And if you have a secretary or an assistant or a version like that, again, you don't have to let her know about the boxes, but make sure she always knows what's in boxes 2 and 3, and make her annoy you about them.
It's good.
Yeah, that would be her primary job, is to make sure she can do box 1 and annoy you about box 2 and 3, because you're going to be thinking about box 4.
Right.
Box 4 is going to be on your mind.
Right.
But 2 and 3, they can slip through the cracks if you're not
we
careful.
saw Brother Dave do that yesterday with something that we were talking about in creative meeting. He said, well, look, based on this conversation, we're going to go this direction, but I need y'all to help hold us accountable under this direction.
Yep.
This is very important, but it's not urgent that it's got to be today.
Yep.
And so because we may forget about it because we are focusing on box number 4,
correct,
then I need y'all to make sure that you remind us of this area.
Yep.
And so that's all cool.
That's a perfect example. Well, cool, man. Well, hey, look, I think this is a good spot for us to put a pin in this. How you feel about it?
Man, I think we did good.
Yeah.
I think it's a good episode. I haven't heard anybody really say, man, y'all need to move on from the communication and leadership series. I think that they're all enjoying that. Now, we do get a few other questions, and when we do, we answer them. But I like that. I like continuing with this and then answering other questions as they come.
Yeah, and I think just the biggest thing for anybody listening about communication leadership is that some people feel like they're not in a spot to use it. And if you feel like you're not in a spot to use it, you need to learn to look at your life through a different lens, because you're definitely in a spot to use all of this. Even if the only thing you lead is your own home and you're the only person in it, there's still plenty of space to use these things, and it's also what you need to use to create as building blocks for the life you want to ultimately create. And so it's time. It's always time to learn.
Amen.
It's always time to learn. Well, that's all I got. You got anything else?
No, we're good. We love you. Hey, keep sending your questions. Keep sending us your thoughts and what you think, and keep telling people about the Jesus Cartel.
Yep. Keep sending all that to Clay.